A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for logging in into today's webinar on Elevate Your Business to Digitalization with a key focus on robotic process automation. My name is Lydia Bummeltiagi and I'm working at the European Enterprise Group at MBG Corporate Services, and it is my pleasure to be the host for today's session. Today, I'm very happy to announce our first webinar on digital transformation as part of our ongoing series of knowledge sessions. We all know that COVID-19 crisis has brought about years of change in the way companies in all sectors and regions do business. According to a new study of McKinsey, companies have accelerated the digitization of their customer and supply chain interactions and of their internal operation by 3 to 4 years. And the share of digital or digitally enabled products in their portfolios has accelerated by a shocking 7 years. To stay competitive in this new business and economic environment requires new strategies and practices. Before we dive into this interesting topic, it is my pleasure to introduce the three speakers for today. We have Mr. Naresh Manchanda, Partner Legal and Technology Services, Mr. Madan Mohan, Director Technology Risk Services, and Santosh Jellishetty, who is RPA Implementation Lead here at MBG Corporate Services. And all of them I will introduce deeper in course of this webinar. So let's have a look at the agenda for today. To start with, I will give a very brief introduction about MBG Corporate Services. Then Mr. Naresh will talk about why companies should look at digital transformation in these times. Santosh will introduce RPA to us, and Madan will close the presentation with the very important topic of how change management facilitate transformation. We will close the session with a question and answer. So in case you have any question, please share them in the question and answer box at the bottom of the screen. Yeah, as a first speaker for today, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Naresh Manchanda, who is partner at MBG Corporate Services. He drives Middle East operation, leads M&A, risk advisory, technology, and the legal practice in the region, as well as the foreign enterprise groups in China, Japan, and Europe. He has worked extensively in Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia, and has in-depth experience in cross-border compliance, taxes, finance, and techno-commercial domains, and has also led sales and operations. Mr. Manchanda provides leadership to overall operation, delivering constant growth over the years, has led multiple verticals over 20 years, including power, water, oil and gas, pharmaceutical, healthcare, regional shared services organization, and corporate headquarters. Mr. Naresh, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Lydia. Very good morning to all of you. Very good afternoon. Thank you for having us and taking out time for the session. In this section, I'm going to talk about globalization, emerging business trends, and the digital canvas for you to paint the way you like it to be. So talking about globalization, 4 key indicators for all of us. 19 has not knocked globalization down. Since countries that connect more to global flows tend to grow faster. So we need more rather than less of globalization. Next page, please. So we'll share a couple of trends that are emerging since last 1 year. So e-commerce sales, if you really see as a backdrop, in 2019 was around $4 trillion. And this is still a very small fraction of overall consumer spending, which the World Bank estimates around $65 trillion. So there are tens of trillions of extra spending left to battle over. And consumer as on date is truly the king as they decide what they want and from where they could buy. Talking about D2C, using trillions of gigabytes of data, companies know better than ever what consumer want. Their products can be delivered direct to the doorstep. Volume of retail data globally is expected to rise from 33 trillion gigabyte in 18 to about 175 trillion by 25. The traditional middleman who for centuries piled hidden cost is being squeezed out. To give you an example of Nike, Nike has cut the cords with most of the wholesalers, including Amazon. The world's biggest online retailer is now focusing on direct to consumer. And overall, about 40% of Nike's revenue is coming directly from this source. Talking about C2M, consumer to manufacturer. So while manufacturers in the West are milking their customer data for more clever sales and marketing, but in China, a new approach to production is emerging, which is consumer to manufacturer. And there are several versions of it. But in essence, C2M makes use of a big data and artificial intelligence by tech form to identify the latest shopping trends. And based on that, manufacturers then make specialized product directly for consumers, again, cutting out intermediaries. It gives you more insight that there is less need to create excess inventory, improving margin, and reducing the cost. It will disrupt marketing as well. Again, an example on Nike. Thanks to its app and interactive shops, it acquires real-time data from customers. When it noticed that traffic on its apps was showing more people doing yoga, it swiftly produced new yoga gear. Similarly, Alibaba noticed early in pandemic that there's a sharp rise in demand for alcohol-based car cleaning suppliers. So they had a tie-up with a company called Otis, and they were able to deliver the product in 3 days' time, which typically takes around 3 months to produce. And even before finally it was launched, within 24 hours, the sales of 200,000 was completed. Similarly, another example about GE Healthcare. They collaborated with a company which was making critical parts for ventilators and were able to deliver with speed. Another debate on e-commerce and physical store. So I'm going to share again a bit of case studies to highlight how both are going to exist in future. To give you an example, Costco. This is world's fifth largest retailer, about $166 billion. And day before yesterday, it got a 10th ranking in the most admired company of the world. It has a unique approach of doing business, treasure hunt shopping strategy. In a supermarket, they keep around 4,000 products versus 50,000 products that other company keeps in a supermarket. They have a IKEA type setup where people come to hunt deals and business keeps on growing. They launched a membership card where we give rewards to the customers. Typically, they keep low pricing, 11% margin versus 25%. Another example, Walmart, they have no plan to prioritize e-commerce over 4,000 store network. Bringing home the message, Lulu, they opened their 205th physical store day before yesterday. Carrefour, in the region, they continue to expand within the country as well as out in the region. MR, they continue to build Noon.com as well as innovate at Dubai Mall. So overall, both these physical as well as online sales will continue. Now moving on to offices versus online working from home. If this is an indicator, you can understand the extent which companies are doing. Facebook is investing in new offices in the heart of New York, and the total capacity for Facebook will be around 2 million square feet. The objective is to get talent, collaborate, and innovate. Hence, everything will not go offline. Another critical area to pay attention is skill set. Across all organizations, companies are hiring new employees with some experience in digital and technology. Another aspect is retraining of team in new skills that many companies are doing. All employees should also identify and approach their organization leadership to gear up for new emerging skills in order to remain relevant. Next page, please. So just to help all the listener about what this digital behemoth is all about, we have tried to summarize on this page what is a digital framework all about. And before that, just to highlight, digital transformation is a full transformation. It involves technologies, operations, thinking across all functions, and entire leadership. So digital adoption framework is a digital visualization for your organization. It is a decisive canvas to articulate all areas to convert your business into a digital business. In total, if you observe, there are total 11 key elements that we need to pay attention on. And we highly recommend discovery-driven approach, and my colleague Santosh will explain in a bit more detail. So moving on, in terms of user experience, typically we feel our user is only the consumer. But if we pay close attention, it's the potential buyers, it's the suppliers, it's the media. Similarly, under digital operations, it's about enabling business technologies in person as well as online. And 2.0 will be big data and blockchain. And similarly, VR, and AR. Under e-commerce, we have a choice of having an own platform or working to a third-party platform. And digital interactions, again, it's all about social media, content platform, email newsletter, and survey that we do. In terms of culture, that's the most important. It's all about rapid innovation. We should foster an organization that motivates employees to grow and try new things while enhancing the learning. So fail fast, learn faster. Experiment in volume. Experiment should be done in large volume to facilitate fail fast and learn faster goal. We should be giving tools, right tools, templates, and software to the teams. A lot of training and mentoring is needed. Similarly, knowledge management. The knowledge should be credible. It should be relevant, which can influence the user. So if you remember on the previous page, we were saying it's pull marketing. While consumer is driving the behavior, but through knowledge management, businesses can drive this by giving some relevant resources and information to the client so that they can buy in your research or based on the product services that you have. Similarly, on data organization, it's a confluence of digital technology and conventional management structure. It includes performance management, information flow, data economics, and data analytics. Infrastructure management is all about what application we use, what storage we have, cloud computing, software licenses, hardwares. So with globalization trends, digital canvas, and trends, I would like to hand over it to my colleague who will take us through more nuts and bolts to help simplify it further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Naresh, for highlighting the importance of digital transformation. As a next speaker, I would like to welcome Santosh Yelishetty. Santosh is the implementation lead here at MPT Corporate Services. He has over 4 years of experience in the field of robotic process automation and previously has worked as a full stack developer. He has implemented RPA in different industries, to name a few: retail, FMCG, manufacturing, hospitality, and mainly processes related to financial operations. As a start into RPA, and now I would like to hand it over to Santosh, who will talk in depth on this topic. Santosh, please.
Thank you, Lydia. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining the webinar. Today, I'm going to cover different aspects of RPA. I'll cover the basics. What is RPA? How does RPA work? Why we need RPA? Where we can use RPA? How to get started with it? And also, I'll go through a few case studies which shows how RPA benefited our clients. So RPA is the use of software along with artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities to automate standard, high volume, repetitive tasks that previously required humans to perform. So basically it enables you with tools to create your own software bots to automate the business process. And the history of RPA tells that it had 3 key predecessors, which were screen scraping, desktop macros, and workflow automation. So in contrast to these traditional automation solutions, RPA allows organization to automate a fraction of cost and time previously encountered. And also RPA is non-intensive in nature and leverages the existing infra without causing any disruption to underlying system. So which would be difficult and costly to replace. So with RPA, cost efficiency and compliance are no longer an operating cost, but a byproduct of the automation. So there are several misconceptions related to RPA. So firstly, RPA is not a humanoid robot. It doesn't have any physical form and no resemblance to humans. And the biggest fear many have is RPA will replace humans, which is not the case. So RPA cannot replace humans or replicate human cognitive functions. It does not have a brain of its own, so it cannot perform logical or critical thinking as humans do. The advantage of RPA software is that it learns quickly with minimal oversight and coding from developers. It's all about embedding the business rules of a process within the bot. And even we have tools where it uses machine learning, natural language processing to make RPA bots watch how human users perform a task and can duplicate that work. So typically RPA can be implemented and integrated with IT systems within just a few weeks. And RPA is actually cost effective because it works with any legacy software systems. Within a short time of using RPA, we can potentially save hundreds of hours of work. So allowing the teams to focus on more complicated projects like maybe forecasting, interpreting rules, and finding new use cases. So according to a survey by McKinsey, RPA can generate an ROI of 30% to 200% within the first year of implementation. And can RPA automate any process? It definitely cannot duplicate all functions in an organization. So there are limitations to the kind of work that today's RPA technology can perform. Rule-based, highly structured data, so that is repeated in high volume, is actually RPA sweet spot. So coming to what activities RPA bot can do, primarily an RPA bot is predefined to replicate human actions like keystrokes, cut, copy, paste, compare, extract, and so on. So any rule-based action which is performed by human can be replicated into the bot. So just to name few, bots can work on Excel, ERP, CRMs, web-based activities, any desktop action, and even mail activities like monitoring the mailbox, downloading the attachments, sending the mails, and many more. So let's have a glimpse on how bot performs some of these actions. So now let us see some of the key characteristics that a process should have in order to automate it. So process or transactions that involve clear and ambiguous rules that robots can follow are the best choices for RPA. And as long as the RPA bot can read the input data and the process it and the store the result electronically, it is a good fit for RPA solution. Process that can be broken down into a series of orchestrated, repeatable activities are often prime for RPA. And one of the most important characteristic, high volume tasks like invoicing, reconciliations, extraction, or order processing make good candidates as RPA can ramp up the output. And robotic systems do very well in highly repetitive tasks that require data transfer across multiple systems. So in this case, data accuracy increases, rework goes down, and as do the cost. Talking about the potential benefits that you can achieve with RPA, so not really everybody here tends to focus on cost saving, and that is, absolutely a core benefit of RPA, but it's not only benefit. So, and when you're looking at RPA, you need to consider that first of all, it's a general purpose technology. So it's applicable across any industry and also has a whole range of benefits. We have been observing that customers are using it for a lot of purposes. Let me just give a few examples and then we can move towards how to get started with RPA. So for example, in financial services, there is a huge amount of focus on around cost, in particular back office, where there is a high volume transaction processing. On average, we are seeing a lot of banks that are working globally target around 25% cost to be taken out. But one of the areas that we are looking out, and this is applicable across many industries, is around customer experience. So for example, one bank introduced to process or address lost cards where customers are finding out that they have lost their card. The existing process involved a lot of waiting around and the response was quite slow. So with RP in place, process which took about 30 minutes to close the lost card now reduced down to about 2 minutes. Similarly, in telecom industry, where it was taking about a day to activate a new SIM card, that was reduced down to about 1 hour by handling out all those activities which was previously done manually in the back office to the robot. So now front office agent can spend more time interacting with the customer and all of the back office offline activity can be handed over to the bot. And couple of other areas that I want to mention is cognitive capabilities. So bots are capable enough to use its cognitive intelligence in order to fetch the data from structured and semi-structured documents like invoices, claims, contracts, and put it across a CSV file. So finally, RPA eliminates mundane work and frees employee hours that can be spent on more creative, innovative, and valued work and providing them job satisfaction. And bots do not have week offs, leaves, and not really wait for office hours to perform any task. It can execute the process 24/7 and improve consistency. So, from a business standpoint, RPA can lead to high ROIs, increased operational efficiencies, leading to higher margins and increased scalability of the back office. So any RPA implementation will have 5 to 6 phases. So in first phase, process discovery sessions should be conducted to identify potential automation candidates, where we should look at existing process flows, determine the steps and human judgments involved. We should assess the initial automation feasibility and list down the processes. Once we list down some of the potential RPA processes, now the process should be prioritized based on factors like complexity, ROI generated by it, and other parameters which impacts the business. Then the selected business processes are designed and developed by leveraging the selected automation tools. And these automated processes are demonstrated to stakeholders to showcase the capabilities and benefits of automation. Then wider organization should be encouraged to actively identify processes for automation, thereby facilitating large-scale adoption across the whole business. So finally, as the automation program ramps up, organization should focus on embedding the automation assets as part of its business as usual, also continually improving the program. So that concludes my section of presentation. So now I'll hand over back to Lydia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Santosh, for this interesting presentation and the case studies where RPA can increase the efficiency. With this, I want to introduce the last speaker for today, Madan Mohan. He is Director, Technology Risk Advisory, has more than 16 years of experience in servicing public sector and private sector clients in the areas of information security, cybersecurity, risk management, privacy and business continuity management in India and Middle East. Madan is a certified Chief Information Security Officer and others mentioned here on this slide. He has worked in intercultural environment with more than 100 clients and has proven record in leveraging secure business processes for business expansion and growth. Madan has worked on BFSI, telecom, automobile, IT, and many more sectors. He has done many information security, BCP, and privacy implementation and audit projects for multiple companies like Mahindra & Mahindra, ID Cellular, Vodafone India, Alvatva Insurance, and many more. Madan, please take it forward.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you for the introduction. And thanks, Naresh and Santosh, for providing detailed presentation on RPA and highlighting the importance of digital transformation. Hello, everyone. Trust you and your family are doing well and healthy. So today I will talk about change management, how change management facilitates digital transformation. Digital transformation is all about people. Yes, all about people. How are you managing your workforce? How your people reacting towards change? And how your workforce contributing towards this digital journey? Change management is one of the most important strategies for ensuring successful transformation. Yes, digital transformation. Probably one of the reasons of the CIO position is now one of the most coveted and compensated roles in today's business. companies operating in the modern business landscape and increasingly finding themselves managing more than just employees, customers, and products. But nowadays, they are also managing the introduction of new technologies, which are enhancing customer experiences. New technologies like robotic process automation, artificial intelligence, blockchain, data science, and many more. Hence, bottom line is change within the organization has become a critical element of survival of many modern businesses in the current digital transformation landscape. Next slide, please. This particular slides describe top 3 goals of change management and digital transformation. Unlike project management, where it's easy to point to schedules, tangible objectives, and specific outcomes, change management follows a more reactive and indefinite path because change is a continuous process and needs to be reviewed frequently by business stakeholders. What change management looks like may vary from organization to organization, but all strategies will be shared these 3 primary goals. First one is to improve the return on investment of the workforce. All changes, particularly those associated with digital transformation, should be installed to improve the efficiency and productivity of your workforce. Whether it's technology to better the communicate between internal or external departments, or the tools to carry out skilled design work effectively. Every change should help your employees to do their work better and faster. Second is to energize and empower employees. Research estimates that some 70% of change, yes, it's correct, 70% of change initiatives failed due to lack of support from own employees. Change can be scary, especially when users have done things a certain way of long time, or they fear that changes may lead to their loss of their income or their jobs. In this case, change management helps to make sure employees feel recognized and supported, thereby empowering them to support change initiatives is very important. Third is create a competitive advantage. We know that companies evolve to get better at what they do. By giving the solid change management structure helps companies spot opportunities to gain a competitive advantage through reduced costs, specialization, and increased quality of service. Next slide, please. Now, question is how to achieve this most difficult task. Yes, I have penned down 5 critical change management strategies based on the best practices being followed in the organization and as per my experiences. We know and experience that change management strategies are critical to the success of any change initiatives in the company, whether it's specific, a targeted transition within department, or significant digital transformation across the organization. Here are the best 5 practices for your change management steps within all type of your business.
Thank you, Madan. So team, the page basically depicts how MBG is a bit different from other service providers. So if typically a technology firm will provide only technology services, but we as an organization, we provide integrated technology solutions along with the layer of compliance, strategy, and risk management. So we cover you from all aspects of any implementation or any plan that you have. Next page. So overall, MBG has extensive digitalization service portfolio. We are helping organization on digital transformation, e-commerce integrated services, implementing RPA solution across multiple industries. We are also very deep into cybersecurity, data privacy across DIFC, ADGM, Dubai, GDPR laws which are required to be implemented. We would like to hear from you and be a sounding board to solve technology issues or even formulate a plan for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Naresh. Thank you, Madan. That brings us also to the end of today's session, the question and answer. We have received quite a number of questions. Those which we cannot answer live, we will get back to you after the session. So let me start with a question for Naresh. Naresh, what is the approach one should take to implement digitalization?
Thank you, Lydia. So we really recommend discovery-driven digital transformation. What basically it means is, based on our experience, most of the companies go in a panic mode when they want to do some transformation, and then they will go all out. And they go with a lightning speed, and most of the time the project fails. So here, what approach we really drive is incremental transformation, which would basically means identify a couple of areas or even 1 or 2 areas which should be automated. We learn from it, adjust it again, and then go in a speedier manner so that we don't incur too much cost over there, and we are able to not to disturb the current operations and grow incremental revenue from one source and then build on the learnings from it. Thank you.
Thank you for this. The next question we received quite often, Santosh, I will address this to you. How do you determine the complexity of a process to be automated?
Okay. So normally we look at process parameters like number of applications involved in the process, what kind of applications they are, where they are hosted, maybe input data sources, whether it is structured or semi-structured, or do we need to digitize the data? And importantly, are there any human judgments involved? So normally when we do process discovery session, we segregate the process into simple, medium, and complex, and then prioritize the simple process as their low-hanging fruits for RPA.
Okay, thank you. Back to Naresh, what is one thing we should focus on out of all areas discussed in today's session?
I believe as Madan rightly touched upon, digital culture is the most important aspects to focus on. We should be providing right tools to the team, right environment where employees can experiment. And even if we fail, we encourage them to fail and learn from it. And give them enough training and mentoring to provide them the right support. Because most of the organization, including Facebook, when it was small, they experimented a lot. And even today, if you really see, the Facebook page that we see on our screen, it's not same for all the people in the world. They are experimenting continuously, and that's how they are growing exponentially. So promoting digital culture is the most important aspect to me. Thank you.
Very true, and probably also one of the most challenging aspects by digital transformation. So I will take 2 more questions so that we assure that we close in time. Madan, the next one is for you. Is RPA secure?
Thanks, Lydia. Thanks. Yes, very important question, right? I was expecting this question from audience. Yeah, RPA is actually viewed as more secure than many other types of technology in play today, basically, because using bots removes the potential of human error. But as we know, in a digital world, risk can't be zero. Organizations should conduct regular assessment on their RPA processes, RPA systems, and the connected network devices, along with user access management. Right? So they have to conduct risk assessment on a regular basis, right? But as an RPA, it is very secure as compared to other applications and other technologies. Thank you.
Thank you, Madan. Santosh, I'll close the session with a final question, which I would like to address to you. Who should own the RPA? Is it the business or the IT?
That was a good question, Lydia. So basically, any process is owned by the business, so does the RPA. So as RPA is all about automating the business process, but again, IT should be aware of what bots are performing. They should look at a bot as one of their user, basically. They also should be aware of what kind of data that bots are accessing and what level of access bots have. So at organizational level, RPA should be owned by business, but it should be gone by IT. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. That brings us to the end of today's session. There are more questions which we will address after this webinar. I would like to highlight that going forward, we will have more webinars in focusing on digital transformation and robotic process automation. So we will keep you informed on this. And that leaves me with thanking the speakers and thanking all the participants for giving us your time today. If you have any questions, suggestions, please drop us an email to uae@mbgcorp.com or call us and we will address them all. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend ahead. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.